Well, hello everybody, it's lovely to be here.
Oh,
I want to say,
so happy to have you.
thank you. I want to say a big thank you to our lovely hosts, AJ and TJ, and Lucy, who's not here, unfortunately. she's the one who really decides who gets booked here, I think. And I want to say thank you to AJ and Dave for allowing me to close for them. That's how it really is. Okay, so I'm going to play for a little while. My name's Rupert, by the way. It really is Rupert. It's not a made-up name. So I'd never heard AJ sing before today, or except in one video which she sent me some months ago. Doesn't she have a super voice? Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Well, I would do to have a voice like
Good
that.
voice.
Anyway, so let me tell you about myself, because it really is my favourite subject. And then when I'm tired of talking about myself, you can talk about me, so we'll all be happy. So here we are. Okay. You might be wondering why I have 3 guitars on stage. Well, the reason is that AJ actually booked a trio to play. And I didn't want to disappoint you. So. Well, they're all actually in different tunings, that's the reason. I know there's a lot of guitar players in the room, and these are all different tunings. So my name is Rupert. One of those names that says, I don't come from round here. I come from London, England, and I've been living in New York City now for about 15 years. Second name is Wates, W-A-T-E-S. So the whole thing reads, Rupert Waits. Well, what does Rupert wait for? That's the question. So much of life is waiting for romance, waiting for success. And now that I've played Chapel Apple House concerts, my long wait for success is still going on. This is called waiting to begin. Waiting to begin. When I was a little boy, the world was like a Christmas toy, a life a game that I was sure to win. I'm waiting to begin. Work hard and get ahead. In time all things will come, they said. That was only so much spin, and I'm waiting to begin. Waiting to begin. Waiting to begin. I'm waiting to begin. I'm still waiting to begin. I never crossed the starting line. The race has left me far behind. I'm no longer in my prime. Still the silent voices sing. They're calling from the promised land, stolen from me by some sleight of hand. Life's a shadow of the one that I planned, till I find the real thing. I'm waiting to begin. Still waiting to begin. Waiting to begin. I'm still waiting to begin. Days come and go, and all I really know is that I'm slowly getting older. No more time to waste, time to join the race. It's already halfway over. Let me do all that I intend. I'm gonna give all that I have to spend. The road is rushing towards the end, but I'm waiting to begin. I'm waiting to begin. Still waiting to begin. I'm waiting to begin. I'm still waiting to begin. So I come from London, England, and what happens in London, England, much of the times that it rains, So I came all the way to America. Look what happened. This is a song about rain. Yeah. Well, we've come through a long period of rain. I want to mention, for the last 2 years, it's been a pretty miserable time for everybody. Musicians, particularly. Well, I don't want to play that string too hard. It's been hard on everybody. But like as a touring musician, I lost about 80% of my income. But I never was evicted. I never had to stand in a food line. I was luckier than many people. It's been a very difficult 2 years for all of us. And it seems to me that we are finally turning the corner. Here we all are sitting in a room together. We wouldn't have dreamed of doing this 2 years ago. Even a year ago, I think it would have been unlikely pushing it. So I'm very grateful, by the way, to the Tiernans for enabling us to do this today. And it does make me feel that the rain is at last over. And this is about that period, that moment when we look out of our windows, as we can do at this very moment, and see the sun shining, more or less, and the trees glittering and shaking and trembling with dripping water, to say that we're still here, still as lovely as ever. The world is as it was before the rain. Why don't you come and enjoy it? So this is called After the Rains. The eagle shakes his feathers dry after the rains are gone, makes his home the wide blue sky after the rains are gone, and comers waiting to the maze are open to the gentle rays of the day to come after the rains are gone. After the rains are gone, we will see with clear sights. After the rains are gone, and when the rain dries on our cheeks to leave us on our mountain peak, then we will hear our vision speak. Morning bird will sing again, although the night was long. And if no trace of us remains to say we walked in love's domain, this will be our song after the rains are gone. The eagle shakes her feathers dry after the rains are gone, makes her home the clear blue sky after the rains are gone, after the rains are gone. So, big event that took place in my life, really, for the last 2 years, second only to playing at Chapel Apple House concerts, was that I became a father. A father, would you believe? Yes. You wouldn't think it, look at me, better late than never. So my wife and I had a baby boy about 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago. He was born in New York City, March the 10th of 2020. So a really terrible time and place to be born. We didn't choose it, really, neither did he, but we had to make the best of it. And he was born at a very large hospital on the Upper West Side of New York City, Mount Sinai. And if he'd been just 1 week later, in fact, if he'd been born on his due date, I would not have been allowed in the hospital, because by that time they were turning away everybody from the maternity ward except the mother. And I wouldn't have been able to attend that amazing event. And I'm sure everybody here, probably, or most people here, parents, or grandparents maybe, what it's like to have a child, and what an amazing event that is. And I would have missed it, you know, and I wouldn't have been able to support my wife through that. So I was very thankful to be there, just in the nick of time. Anyway, as I was going in and out of the hospital, I had to pass through a set of big revolving doors. I would come in and someone would come out. And this being the start of a pandemic, a big hospital, I would say to myself, well, not everybody that went in to those doors ever came out. Quite a few of them were carried out feet first. So it made me think about life and death, put it in a new way. And there we were, meeting and parting, just as we do in life, you know. And I know that several people in this room have lost people recently, not to COVID necessarily, but to something else. And it happens, and I have to make my son aware of that reality, my own son. We'll have to grow up to that reality sooner or later. It's a painful idea. And this is a song that I wrote for him with that image of the revolving door in mind. I was also thinking of the carousel at the end of Catcher in the Rye. If you've read, I'm sure you've all read that wonderful book. The horses going round and round. So this is called the Carnival Waltz. For my son, but it's also for all of us. The Carnival Waltz. All the pretty horses go round and round, painted in colours so gay, prancing and dancing while music plays. And so many people are standing in line, waiting to take a ride. Some may be happy, and some may be hurting inside. As long as the wheel keeps turning, we'll watch them all go by. Some say hello, and some are waving goodbye. For every face that is passing from us, another will always come round. And all we've lost someday will surely be found. Round and round they go, round and round they go, round and round they go. All the pretty horses go up and down, painted in their colours so gay, prancing and dancing while music plays. Every good friend that we've lost on the way someday will come to the sound, and we are all riding the merry-go-round. Round and round we go, round and round we go. Doing all that, spending all that time at home during lockdown, all my gigs were cancelled. I had to spend a lot of time what we call woodshedding, as you know, which is, you know, honing our skills, playing guitar, writing a lot of songs. I wrote a lot of songs. In fact, I recorded a new album in June of 2020. Most of the songs of which were written in the previous 2 months. Went into the studio and recorded the whole album in about 5 hours flat, because my CDs are all just me and my guitar. So it's not that difficult to set up a recording studio and get it done very quickly. So I'm going to play you the title song of my CD. I'd like to mention also my CDs are for sale. There in the foyer. They're $15 for one, $20 for two. Now, not many people buy CDs these days, but I think that's a shame, not just for my sake, but also for their sake, because the CD is arranged in a certain way. It's not just a random collection of songs. A CD for me has a meaning, and the writer wants you to go on a journey with him or her. He's arranged those songs in a certain sequence to give meaning to each one, which they don't have in isolation. So if you download a song here and there, not only do I make less money, but you miss out on the story, as it were. So I do hope you will consider buying a CD. You can consider it a library from which you can borrow a book now and then if you don't want to listen to the whole thing, but I hope that you will take the opportunity to listen to a whole CD. I certainly still do that in my car anyway, although they're making cars now without CD players, which is a big lost musicians. It's weird, and I love the sound of music on stereo. You know, if to go to someone's house and they don't have a stereo, I feel that something's really missing in their life. They don't listen to music on their stereo. Anyway, so do consider buying my CDs. What I want to mention, the last point I want to make about my CDs is that they do have nutritional value, in that if you buy one, I will eat. So, so anyway, this is the title song of my most recent, my 2020 CD, and this is called Lamentations. We were doing a lot of lamenting at the time. This is called Lamentations. Once I was lovely, once I was young, once I rejoiced in the light of the sun. Once the pure waters flowed straight to my well. Now I sing lamentations to heaven or hell. The keys of the kingdom were thrown at my feet. The table was laden with all I could eat. Now I beg them to feed me through the bars of a cell, and I sing lamentations to heaven or hell. Lord, if you're listening from so far away, to all the dim voices that whisper and pray, show us your mercy, tell us all shall be well, while we sing the lamentations to heaven or hell. Once I was golden, once I was young, once I rejoiced in the light of the sun. Now I've grown weary of the sound of the bell, and I sing lamentations to heaven or hell. And I sing lamentations to heaven or hell. So I want to sing a song which is part of my new CD, Lamentations. But I was asked to write this actually originally by some friends of mine who are also musicians. A lovely group called Rough and Tumble, and look out for them if they get in touch. They probably will, because they keep a close track on where I'm playing. So, and we follow each other around America. Rough and Tumble, they're lovely people, and they do wonderful folk Americana kind of music. Anyway, they asked me to contribute a song to a CD they were going to put together, the theme of which was going to be the highways of America. because we musicians know all about the highways of America. I do about 50,000 miles every year in my car. On a normal year, obviously last year and the year before were different, but most years play about 120 shows, keep on the road all year round. So I know the highways of America very well. And one of my favourite highways, I'm afraid to say, it's not the 295, it's not the 95, I wish that it was. One of my favourite highways is number 1 in California. Anybody here from California?
No.
You've been to California. Let me take you to California. Imagination. So this is a song dedicated to a freeway. This is called Highway 1, or California 1. It's called California 1. Heading out on Highway 1, heading out, say you'll come with me, just you and me. Down the coast she rolls and whirls, while the California sunlight shines on the sea. I can feel the mountain breeze, hear it singing through the redwood tree. I can taste the sweet, sweet wine, see the ocean move to its own time. Waves are breaking in the sun, I'm going where the endless rivers run. Oh, how they run on California. While we are standing still, time just advances over those blue, blue hills. Time truly dances. So much we lose and still wasted our chances to be free. I can feel the mountain breeze, hear it singing through the redwood trees. I can taste the sweet, sweet wine, see the ocean move to its own time. Heading out on Highway 1, heading out if you'll only come. We've just begun on California. California.
Wow.
Quite a lot of songs based on true stories. This next song is based on a true story. I read a book called True Tales of American Life, which is an anthology of true stories, anthologized by a man named Paul Auster, who's actually a radio host and fiction writer. But he asked his viewers to send in, his listeners rather, to send in true stories that he could read on the air, and that he was inundated with stories, and this is one of them. This is a set that took place during the days of the Dust Bowl Depression back in 1932. Southwest of America was really hit hard by cyclones, tornadoes, hurricanes, dust clouds, you name it. It was also the height of the Great Financial Depression, which began in 1929 with the crash on Wall Street. Very difficult time. And the hardest hit of all, of course, were the farmers, as is always the case. And when they lost their farms to the banks, because they couldn't make the mortgage payments anymore, they were just devastated. The men didn't know what to do with themselves, because they thought of themselves as farmers. The farm had been in their family for generations. It defined who they were as men. So when it was taken from them, they just tended to go to pieces and give up. But the women, they didn't give up. They couldn't afford to give up. So they stepped up to the breach, and they carried on doing what they'd always done, which was to put food on the table and order in the house, and to keep everything clean and tidy, which is very important, because they couldn't let the dust come in through the windows, or it would get into the lungs of the children and kill them. So Women were really the heroes of that period, as they so often are, perhaps even always, the unsung heroes of history. So let's hear it for the women, the strong women of America, mothers, sisters, daughters, wives, aunts. This is for you, the women of America. Round of applause, please, for the women of America. So this is for you. We need you now more than ever before to help us believe that tomorrow will be better than yesterday. This is my song based on a true story. It concerns a poor family who made their way across America on foot during the days of the Dust Bowl. So this is my song based on that story called Days of Mercy. Days of Mercy. Daddy lost his job one day when I went to take a cut in pay. He couldn't find another place, even one that paid him less. So he settled into his easy chair with his dog-eared magazines until the bank took back our house and my mama only screamed. When she was a little girl, she had a dream. She found a pearl hidden in the pocket of her pants, but the pants were full of holes, and when she woke the pearl was gone, and she was only 6 years old. Hold on tight, my mama said, and keep your eyes upon the sun. Faith in the road ahead, the days of mercy will surely come. And when the world is blown apart in the eye of a hurricane, let strength and courage fill your hearts. Days of mercy will come again. So we sold up all we owned, we headed east in a touring car. We found a place with a plot of land down in windy Arkansas. And Daddy worked on a lady's farm, but my mama heard it said he didn't work that lady's fields as much as he worked her bed. So she packed a cardboard case with a single change of clothes and took the baby on her hip and told us all to follow close. And we began the long walk home to the California coast. All on time, my mama said, keep your eyes upon the sun, put your faith in the road ahead. The days of mercy will surely come. And when the world is blown apart in the eye of a hurricane, let strength and courage fill your hearts. Days of mercy will come again. Oklahoma sun, my mama led me to a stream and dipped a cloth to bathe my head. We walked all through New Mexico, and in a migrant workers' camp I learned all there was to know about the kindness of the poor. And all the children dressed in rags, they gave us everything they had. Bags of sweets with ready smiles, fresh tortilla around the fire, in the huts of rusty iron. When the babies started crying, hold on tight, my mama said, keep your eyes upon the sun, put your faith in the road ahead. The days of mercy will surely come. When the world is blown apart in the eye of a hurricane, let strength and courage fill your hearts. Days of mercy will come again. So we finally reached LA, beside a lake in Lincoln Park. A man was standing all alone, throwing crumbs to feed the ducks. When are you gonna take those children home? Asked the man, and my mama said, we just walked 2,000 miles, we'll make it yet with a little luck. And then the man just looked away, he said he guessed his turn had come. He pulled out $2 bills, enough to see us right, for a can of pork and beans and some shelter for the night. Hold on tight, my mama said, and keep your eyes upon the sun, put your faith in the road ahead. The days of mercy will surely come. When the world is blown apart in the eye of a hurricane, let strength and courage fill your hearts. Days of mercy will come again. Hold on tight, my mama said, keep your eyes upon the sun, put your faith in the road ahead. The days of mercy will surely come. When the world is blown apart in the eye of a hurricane, let strength and courage fill your hearts. Days of mercy will come again. Hold on tight, my mama said, keep your eyes upon the sun, put your faith in the road ahead. Days of the mercy will surely come when the world is blown apart. In the eye of a hurricane, that strength and courage fill your hearts. Days of mercy will come again. So I'd like to do a couple of instrumental tunes now, and the first is written by J.S. Bach, but as I always say, don't worry, his Bach is worse than his bite. They get worse, sad trumpet. I'm going to go straight to one of my own tunes, which is called I'll Never Tire of Looking in Your Eyes. So I've got two tunes back to back, one of mine and one of J.S. Bach. So what I'm essentially doing by putting my song back to back with one of J.S. Bach's is asking myself, asking to compare me to one of the greatest composers who ever lived. So please be generous. This is J.S. Bach's Jesu Joy of Man's Desire, followed by I'll Never Tire of Looking in Your Eyes by me. About my wife's non-profit that she runs. She's the CEO and executive director of a non-profit, and the joke that we have is that she makes more money than I do. She runs a non-profit.
It doesn't say a lot.
I'm sorry.
It doesn't say. I'm a nonprofit executive
Right.
for 30 years.
Right.
We raise a lot, but we don't get to keep it.
Right, well, no, that's the point, isn't it? So let's go retune the guitar. Except that I wouldn't retune it, I'm going to do that now. Now, my wife's non-profit exists to help young kids, mostly girls, but some boys too, who are struggling with their self-image, put it like that. Maybe they have problems with bulimia, anorexia. Maybe they have issues of gender identity. Maybe they just don't know who the hell they are. They don't like the way they look, the way they sound, how much they weigh. So her job is to go into the high schools with a theatre piece that she's created and try to persuade these kids that they're just beautiful as they are. They don't need to listen to what their friends, in particular so-called friends, are telling them about the way they look, or who they ought to be, or who they ought to love, or what they should be called, or the music they should like, whatever the hell it is. So I decided to write a little song dedicated to all those girls, and dedicated to all of us in a way. And I envisaged a young girl who lived on a desert island where there was no social media, no Twitter, no Facebook, and no one ever came to visit her. Instead of being lonely, she decided she was going to make a desert island a beautiful place. And this is called The Ballad of a Brown-Eyed Girl.
She was a young girl with eyes of brown, lived 3 days all alone on an island where the wind and the rain made a pitiful sound, and the sun and the sea endlessly pound the rocks on the shore and the white sand. On the first day she wrote with a stick in the sand words of welcome to all passing sailors. But as evening fell on the very same day, the tide coming in washed her words away, while the light of the moon grew paler. On the second day she stood at her window and sang a beautiful song to the morning, but no one was there on her island to hear, and the beautiful song that she sang disappeared with the sound of the rain that kept falling. On the third day she woke and she planted the seed of a rose that would bloom in her garden, but the sun beats down and it withered the rose, for she chose a place where no river flows, in a land that never gives pardon. And though man never read what she wrote in the sand, or heard what she sang from her window, though the rose that she planted died in her hand, for 3 days the cruel world was a lovely land, for the brown-eyed girl had made it so. She was a young girl with eyes of brown, lived 3 days all alone on an island where the wind and the rain make a pitiful sound, and the sun and the sea endlessly pound the rocks on the shore and the white sand.
Songs from my new CD, which is called For the People, for sale with the foyer full of people. I recorded it just after Thanksgiving, did it in a single day, as I would always do all my CDs. Why for the people? Well, during the election of 2020, which we won't talk about, except to mention that it happened, we heard that phrase an awful lot, for the people, by the people, of the people, which of course comes from the Gettysburg Address. And so I was asking myself, what music goes well with that phrase, for the people? Well, folk music, of course, is by definition music of the people, by the people, for the people. So I went back to my own roots in English, specifically English folk music. I looked up some old English folk tales, which resonated with me, and decided to base some songs loosely on those old English folk tales. And I just found it very easy to write. I wrote the whole CD in a couple of months. I was doing a couple of songs a week. And they just kind of came out very simply and easily. I think I'd uncorked some kind of vessel that was in me when I went back to these old folk tunes, and it felt very natural and easy for me. Anyway, England being an island, a lot of folk tunes are about the sea. So these songs from the news, but I will come to an Irish shanty this afternoon. I was asked earlier on if I could play an Irish shanty. Well, I won't go that far, but I will do some songs that sound as if they might be Irish shanties. Anyway, this is called To the Sea.
Can you tell me where my true love lies? What's that to me? What's that to me? Did she pass by on her morning ride? Follow the river to the sea. Well, there were flowers in her chestnut hair. What's that to me? What's that to me? It was for my sake she ended well. Follow the river to the sea. There she waits on the sun-warmed sands, while waves rise and fall, where the old ruined castle stands, and silence gazes from its walls. There she'll watch as the sailors make land, each with treasures galore. They will show her the pearls and urns that they had brought from distant shores. And in time to come she'll not grow. What's that to me? What's that to me? For a rusty coin she'll trade her soul. Follow the river to the sea. Can you tell me where my sweetheart lies? What's that to me? What's that to me? Did she pass by on her morning ride? Follow the river to the sea. Follow the river to the sea. Follow the river to the sea.
So one of the key texts in English ancient or medieval literature is the stories of the knights and King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, the myth of Camelot. If you've seen the 1965 film, I think it is, with Richard Harris. Anyway, the point of the Round Table was this kind of Freemasonry, and knights of the period were allowed admission to the Round Table by proving themselves via deeds of chivalry and valour. So they were set various tests which were designed to prove whether they were really chivalric, true men, if you like. And these are still very powerful stories in England today, and they have a lot of resonance in contemporary life. And they're not, as old-fashioned as you might think. And the men had to prove themselves, the values that they had through various tests that they set. I mean, King Arthur himself has set a test, and he happens upon a sorceress as he's walking along the road. And she commands him, pointing a bony finger at him, she says, "You must go and find the answer to the question, what is it that women most desire?" She says. So off poor old King Arthur goes in search of the answer to this question, which has you know, bothered men for centuries. I still don't know the answer on it, and it is that women want. Anyway, so off he goes in search of the answer to that quest, and I decided to write a song based on poor old King Arthur's quest to find the answer to the question, what is it that women most want? And the second song I'm going to do back to back. There are a lot of medleys on my new CD. Second song is written from the point of view of a woman who's just been jilted by her partner, and he's gone off to live with a beautiful Spanish lady. So she's pretty annoyed about that. So these two songs are on the theme of ladies. What is it that ladies most want, and how do they act? What do they say when they don't get what they want? So here we are, two songs on the theme of ladies. And I hope these are, you know, kind of ideologically correct. These are based on old English texts, and I've taken no responsibility for that. Anyway, so this is All Fair Ladies, followed by Spanish Galleon.
Tell me, ladies, much admired, ask anyone to you. Name the thing you most desire, ask and we will answer true. Shall it be a diamond or a ring? Must I be a pauper or a king? Tell me if you can what I must bring, a lady fair, for my lady's love to win. Will she care for pomp and state? Ask and we will answer you. Plump young fowl to fill her plate, ask and we will answer true. Shall it be a diamond or a pin? Must I be a pauper or a king? Tell me if you can what I must bring, my lady fair, for my lady's hand to win. Will my riches turn her head? Yes, but they'll not reach her heart. Will she prize good sport in bed? Yes, but you must learn the art. Be thou lord or prince or knave, so say all fair ladies. When you're schooled in what she craves, so say all fair ladies. Let your lady have her will, then your cup of joy shall be filled. If no other thing you bring, your lady fair, you your lady's heart shall win. Let your lady have her will, then your cup of joy shall be filled. If no other gift you bring, your lady fair, you your lady's heart shall win. You your lady's heart shall win. Oh, take me aboard your fine Spanish galleon. I must make my way to the port of Cadiz. My true love is there and still wears my medallion, for I am worth more than that lady of his. How much shall I pay you to grant me the passage? Poor maid I am, little money have I. His lady is rich, and she rides in a carriage. She has bewitched him with dark Spanish eyes. Oh, take me aboard your fine Spanish galleon. I must make my way to the port of Cadiz. My true love is there and still wears my medallion, for I am worth more than that lady of his. And I know he will love me again when I find him, for he bears my image yet close to his heart. No more will her jewels and her finery blind him, no more will she practice her poisonous art. Oh, take me aboard your fine Spanish galleon. I must make my way to the port of Cadiz. My true love is there, and still wears my medallion, for I am worth more than that lady of his. I am worth so much more than seniors of his. A song about the soldiers, if I may, because we're all thinking about soldiers. We're trying not to think about soldiers right now, but I can't help but think about the soldiers who are out there fighting, as you know, again, all over again, for what? What reason? Why are they there? Why can't we just live in peace? I will never understand. Anyway, so some of the songs on my CD have a background of the First World War. The First World War, 1914 to 1918. It was a traumatic memory for English people. I think much so, more so than perhaps here in America. The Second World War, of course, is the big one here in America. But the First World War for us in England was the big disaster. We lost about a third of our young men. Just sent them away to die. No reason, no benefit. They just were sent off in a useless cause. And it's happening again. So I want to think about those men and women, of course, who are fighting for whatever reason. Maybe it's a good cause, I don't know. But I came across a wonderful story, a true story. There's a village not far from London. And in that village there's a pub called the Bricklayer's Arms. And if you go to that pub today, you can look up at the ceiling and you'll see 25 nail holes, or a bunch of nail holes and 25 silver coins nailed to the ceiling, the beams of that pub. So you ask the landlord, excuse me, what are those silver coins doing in your ceiling? And he will tell you the story, which was that on the eve of the First World War, that all the young men of that village got together in their new uniforms, which they were so proud of, parading in front of their loved ones and their wives, their sweethearts, and they went to the pub and they said to their sweethearts, each one of them produced from their pocket a florin, which was a coin worth about 10 English pennies, a florin. And each man said, here's a florin, nail this to the ceiling. And when I come home from this conflict, as I surely will do, we're going to spend that florin on drinks for the house and we'll celebrate. So that's what they did. 110 years later, you go back to that pub. There you see all the nail holes. They represent all the young men of that village who came home and reclaimed their florin. 25 silver coins still there. That represents all the young men who never came home. Just from that one village alone, they never came home to reclaim their florin. And that is their war memorial. A silver coin worth 10 pennies stuck in the ceiling of the pub. So I decided that I would write a song for them. And this is called A Florin to the Beam. A florin, of course, is a coin worth about 10 pennies. Florin to the beam. For all the soldiers. Drink up and dry your eyes, and nail a florin to the beam with the old bricklayer's arms and leave it there for all to see. Drink up and dry your eyes, and on the day when I come home, it will buy a high old time for you and me. Promise me that you'll remember me in every letter that you send to me. This war will never make an end of me, as long as you are still a friend to me. Drink up and dry your eyes, and nail a florin to the beam with the old bricklayer's arms and leave it there for all to see. Drink up and dry your eyes, and on the day when I come home, it will buy a high old time for you and me. If I never see your eyes again, that coin will be the one you never spend. No black ringed notice in the Times for me. One silver penny will do fine for me. Drink up and dry your eyes, nail a florin to the beam with the old bricklayer's arms and leave it there for all to see. Drink up and dry your eyes, and on the day when I go home, it will buy a high old time for you and me. We'll have a high old time, wait and see.
would probably just let you just keep playing.
No. Because you got it.
I go to work on Monday, but
Yeah. Let me do one more song on the theme of the soldiers because I'm just feeling all tired and emotional this evening and I want to think about them. So, in this song I'm envisaging a soldier in the trenches in the First World War, thinking back to an evening that he spent at home in England with his beloved, listening to the sound of a nightingale, because the nightingale is a very symbolic bird in English literary mythology, and it makes him homesick for England, thinking of the sound of this nightingale that he heard all those nights ago. So this is called The Hills of Blue Heather, or The Nightingale's Song. Does the nightingale sing as sweetly as ever in the hills of blue heather where you and I lay? And the music he made filled the darkness with sound until the night found the first light of day. Is the springtime as lovely still as I remember when morning had broken and I held you near as we stood together in the hills of blue heather, and the nightingale's song yet rang in our ears. Now my days are laden with the colours of autumn. The ground we have fought on is brown as my clothes, and the night's only music is the prayer of the young men, waiting and wondering whose blood will flow, for the flower of England shall wither and die here as the nightingale offers his breast to the thorn, killed by alien hands in an alien country far from the land where they were born. And I will see you again as lovely as ever in the hills of blue heather one morning in May, and the church bells will ring so loud they will drown all other sounds that welcome the day. Though my eyes are grown older and fires have grown colder, I will see you once more unchanged by the years as we stood together in the hills of blue heather, and the nightingale's song yet rang in our ears, and the nightingale's song yet rang in our ears.
Yes.
Well, of course, it's very, very cool. I want to give you something totally different. Now, this is a song, an instrumental written by one of my favourite guitarist, Leo Kottke. Do you know Leo Kottke's work here?
yeah.
Well, you should know about him. He's mainly plays 12 string, but this is a 6-string piece. So it's written by Leo Kottke, and it's called The Fisherman by Leo Kottke. thanks again to our lovely hosts, AJ, Dave, and of course Lucy. Real eminence grise. And it's been a pleasure to close for Water Bear. Here's hoping that we will play together again before long. Please be safe. Stay safe, stay well and healthy. Drive home safe if you're driving this evening. And let's meet again. Now, I wrote this song some years ago for some friends of mine who were going through a very hard time. It's a song called Prayer. So let's take a moment and think about people we know and love who might be in need of a prayer, whatever that may mean this evening. There's always too many of them. So this is for everybody who doesn't have a prayer this evening. This is called Prayer. Here's to you, here's to me, here's to all we've ever seen, to all that come and all that's new. Here's to all we ever shared, to our fathers and to our heirs, to all people everywhere. When they haven't got a prayer. Here's to the young and here's to the old, to the body and to the soul, to all whose stories are still untold. Here's to the likeness and here's to the weight, and to the gay and to the straight, to all who die too soon or were born too late. Here's to our enemies and here's to our friends, to the river that never ends. Here's to the sinners, here's to the born again. Here's to the black and here's to the white, to the left and to the right. Here's to the evening and here's to the morning light, coming into sight. To the rich and to the poor, here's to the sea and here's to the shore. Here's to all people everywhere. When they haven't got a prayer. 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 Here's to the cop and here's to the priest, to the west and to the east. Here's to all they bring to the feast. Here's to the lion and here's to the lamb. Here's to the beast in the heart of man. Here's to the house on rock and the house on sand. Here's to the heart and to the head, to the living and to the dead. Here's to the joy and to the tears we shed. Here's to the first and here's to the last, to the future and to the past. Here's to all who ever raised their glass anytime we asked. To the moon and to the sun, to all we lost and all we've won. Here's to all people everywhere. When you haven't got a prayer. 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 bloody time. It's this bloody time for booze. That's great, James. Happy Grace on stage. Let's break out the booze.
That was
Wonderful.
phenomenal.
Thank you
Oh,
so
that was
much.
great.
Thank you.
This is really great.